I wanted to do another video regarding some of the readers that we're using and some of the materials, how they compare, and also introduce myself. My name is Sarah. I live in Florida. I have one daughter. She is 4.5 years old, and I taught her to read starting at around 3. So we've had a really interesting and fun journey. I recently left a job in accounting to pursue teaching, and I'm currently enrolled for certification in evidence-based literacy instruction. And maybe at a later date, I can make a video about that. I'd like to get in touch with them and make sure that I'm not divulging anything about the program and maybe get some feedback from Nora and the people at An Ounce of Prevention Reading Center, which is in Michigan. If anybody happens to be up there and they're really interested in learning about reading, or if you have a struggling reader, highly recommend. The program's called Ebly, and Nora and their team have a documentary coming out, and I hope to do a video about that soon. It's called The Truth About Reading, and hopefully I can wear my shirt and give a little love their way. All right, so without further ado, I want to go over Hooked on Phonics early reader books, starting in like the very basic, and then like sort of the level 1, 2. The Bob books, which everybody's very familiar with, and Abeka readers starting K4, K5, and then like the grade 1, which is what we do now with her, and of course the handbook for reading, which is very helpful. So the reason I wanted to go over all 3 is because they're all very good. You can't go wrong. I mean, I have preferences. Obviously, with unlimited time and resources, you could collect all 3 at a garage sale, or 2 or 3, and save yourself a whole bunch of time and money. There's no such thing as too much curriculum and too many resources. But I also want to do a video about why I purchase the things I do, how we use them, and how I let them go. Because I mentioned I have one daughter, and we will not be having any more children, so I want to make sure that these materials go to good use. All right. First and foremost, the Bob books. Everyone's really familiar with these now. I'm just going to open to a random page, .hid. I've done a video about these before, and I'm going to go side by side against one of the Hooked on Phonics readers, which is basically the exact same thing. Cat sat on the cap. Very straightforward. They're almost the same size, guys. It's not a big deal to do one or the other. They're gonna get a lot of the same equipment. One of the things I like about these is if you look on YouTube, they do provide free videos of all these, and they also provide some reinforcement on letter sound correspondence, word families, where they'll do a rollover and they'll turn hat into sat into mat, and then do a little animation. Those have been shown in research, good, high quality, vetted, peer-reviewed research, to have a slight advantage where you're sort of anthropomorphizing letters and giving them some extra visual cues. If they're having trouble with their letters and sounds, I really like to use sign language. And I have never heard anybody talk about this on YouTube, but if somebody's really having trouble with their letters and sounds, first and foremost, is English their primary language? Are they speaking AAE, African dialect? A lot of our spoken language, we've had semantic drift and phonetic drift away from like encoded words. So make sure they're hearing all the sounds, make sure they're seeing it, point to your mouth. And if they're having trouble breaking apart, one of the glued sounds that I hear a lot of people struggle with their children is drum. Say drum. The child says drum. You say, okay, watch my mouth. Drum. How many sounds in drum? D, m. 4. Drum. Say drum. If they really can't do it, use their hands and say d, m. Now close your eyes. Say the sounds again and do your hand signals. D, That way they're using a physical, it's a kinetic. If they are crossing the midline, try to do it with their left hand if that's a possibility. There's lots of really great stuff that you can just roll in. Try it. Just try it. So yeah, the Bob books are going to give you a quantity that's higher than you would see with the Hooked on Phonics earliest readers. Obviously, these books, you can get tons and tons of these. They will sell you a lot, and you don't really need a lot. I do like the cards in the back, but they're not super, just flip them over. Don't break them apart. Flip them over and have the child read and do the picture, or make sure you're covering up the picture. If you think they're going to start guessing the words, go through them one by one. The milk is, make sure they're saying not, since that's the sight word in this kit. The milk is not in the jug. Have them go through that. Have them practice some of these. I love flashcards. Kids love flashcards. It's fun. Make it fun. Give them a Cheeto or something when they get it right. Have fun with it. This should not be painful. If it's painful, stop. Do something else. Do something else with your time. That being said, if you're paying for a tutor, I am of the opinion that unless you have unlimited time and resources, make sure that you are getting really structured, targeted, high quality instruction. Sometimes that can be gamified with cards and such, and sometimes not. All right, moving on to what we would consider the level 1s. And I'm just going to go through the covers so you can see this is a very old set. Book 17, book 18, book 19. You can see some of these are geared a little more towards boys, which makes them, in my opinion, kind of valuable. We don't see a lot of high quality early readers that are absent trademark characters and things like that. We see a lot of intellectual property tie-in. But here's a really good example page so you can see the size of the print, the font, the illustrations. These are great little readers. Great little readers. You can pick them up at thrift stores sometimes, but honestly, you're gonna score these at garage sales big time. They get recycled, and they go around in the community, and people recognize, first of all, that they pick them up and they don't designate time or goals to getting through them, which is something I would like to address elsewise. Don't buy something if you're not going to use it, is sort of the bottom line. So there is your Hooked on Phonics early readers. There's quite a few in this. And I think I got these and the workbook, which for this set would be red, orange. And these, they're going to show you right on the cover that they're starting to go over more advanced spelling patterns like TCH. Lots of work with digraphs. They're not doing a lot of diphthongs at this stage. It's still a lot of short vowels, and the way that this program goes is sequential, and you're going to run across in a word family, moving from left to right. The child's finger needs to remain on the line, and they say each sound and blend them together. This is a really good method. It works fine. It works fine. And you do not have to do all of them. Have them do one or two. There are some flashcards that it came with as well, which are really fun. You can do flashcards in 30 seconds. Not a big deal. Don't make it a big deal. I don't use the CDs. They do include word ladders. This is also really popular with the Abeka program. It's crept into some of the other free programs. They just capitalize on it, and it works great. You'll see these in some of the other materials. So that was the orange book, that was the red book, which is the 4th, I think. This would be considered the 3rd Hooked on Phonics workbook, and you would just have them read right from here. It's nice and big. There's plenty of room for the adult hand and the child's hand to do to do the run, and you can discuss the picture, do some like reading comprehension questions, make sure they're really getting it, and then close the book, walk away, do something else. If they can read, 2 or 3 of these images, give them an M&M and move on. Have a little joke, give them a little tickle. They might need a little stretch. Make it work for you. And you can tear these pages out and send them into pre-K or kindergarten. If you feel like they're not getting a really robust academic, I shouldn't say that. If you're interested in supplementing or structuring the literacy portion for a pre-K student like my daughter, send them with stuff. Talk to the teacher and find out if that's acceptable. Almost all of them will say, yes, please, by all means, send what you would like your children to do. And then that way I don't have to print or pull or cut or collate anything for you. All right, so lastly, we're going to go over these pretty quickly because I'm only going to go over like what we would consider the Abeka K4, K5, and reading handbook. There's really great videos on the reading handbook, and it is a fantastic value. K4, do not buy these. This one came with some of the other ones. It's just letters. I don't need that. That's not high quality instruction, but I kept it because, whatever. This would be I Learned to Read. There are 4 books in each run, A, B, C, D, of K5, and they all have the numbers and letters up here. I think this is 2 rounds old, so this has been since updated a couple times. Still works fine, doesn't matter. They're just going to go over their CVC. If the child can read 1 page, cover up the pictures with sticky notes. If they're guessing, make sure they're sounding out, run their finger across the bottom and say each sound as they go, blending and getting their little practice in. Roll a die. Do this as a roll and read, hop along, and you don't have to read all of it. The kids get tired at this. This is the very first book. When they do this, or the very first Bob book, or their very first, Hooked on Phonics, the cat books, give them an ice cream party or something. All right, so let's go through. So that was A. I Learned to Read. B, C, D. Let's get into I Do Read, and I'll give you a quick flip through this one. This is I Do Read, so this would be considered the second portion. The sun, see the sun. God made the sun. This is not a secular program. If that bothers you, don't use it. Red hen, see the red hen. The hen dug a hole. The hen got the, make it a big party, that last word. There's one of our word letters. They do encourage blending and doing, several sounds together to get, and this is something that was utilized or sort of leveraged in some of the programs that advocated, like get a running head start, do those early blends. This is not necessary. Just have them do the sounds individually. If they can blend them together, great. Use the letter, don't use the letter. Keep it simple. And then by the last page, they're just doing Jake, Will, Hog, Dad. Now, if you notice, they've got silent E already in there, which we don't call it that in the program that I use, but it's there nonetheless. And this is for K5. So they're not shy about introducing more complex patterns early on. This is super spiral. So if they don't get it on the first go, don't worry about it. I Do Read. This would be the third. This is book 3, book 4. I Do Read. Now we're really getting somewhere. This is some good stuff. And at this point, you would have them read maybe 3 or 4 lines. If they're really getting fatigued, give them a snack, encourage them, keep it going. And then by the end of it, let's do 3 and 4 of I Can Read Well. The Big Trip. I can ride on a train. Now we're getting diphthongs. Pretty cool. K5. Your kids can do this, but you do want to be systematic and regular. And if it's not working, don't force it. I can fly in a plane. I can sail on a ship. I can take a big trip. This is awesome. Really good stuff. And they're going to be mapping it. They give you a couple activity style pages where you can go over either word blends or they'll have another ladder. And then they're going to start to remind you of some of these sight words where, you know, the z in was and said, which has a really funny history. If you follow the logic of English, which I love, you get some really good insight into how our drift has affected spelling and speaking. So this is just really great opportunity. And I realize this is going to be backwards in the image that I'm seeing, but still gives you an idea. Miss Mouse likes cheese. It is a real treat. It is not a treat if it is in a trap. Look out, Miss Mouse. Do not try to eat the cheese. It is not safe. And they're going to give you these moral kind of stuff. Lastly, for Hooked on, this is for the Abeka program, the My Blend and Word Book. These are ladders. We don't use this, but occasionally she likes to pull it out and run through one just for sounds. You know, you can sing it because every single one of these is going to have a vowel. You can sing it. Then in the very back, this is about 45 pages. They will give you some of these more complex words just for a word ladder practice to run through some stuff that could potentially give them some issue. But again, this is designed for K5. And that will sort of conclude what we would expect in the kindergarten aspect. The handbook for reading, there are lots of really great flip throughs. These do include the charts that you would typically see at a pretty penny from Abeka. This is 150 pages. It includes just about everything that you would need to get a really strong phonics program. We don't use it as phonics. We use it as reading and spelling. At the bottom of most of the runs, you'll have like a short story or a poem. Sometimes it's a prayer, so be mindful of that. And we do not mark vowels. That's not our style. But you know, she's getting exposure to cursive print, which is really or cursive end print, I should say, which is a lot of fun. And it gives us an opportunity. You could do this as a roll and read. So, you know, you get your dice out. And so there's 5 options here. Maybe you would say number 1's a wild card. You could read anything you want. And then there's sight words. There's some really good, just little call outs and stuff. There's not any long passages. It's really just, this is a practice book. This is a really good practice book. You know, snack. Who doesn't want to learn how to spell snack? Isn't that great? So that's that. And I'll do the first grade readers separately because that is a ton of fun. Those are currently what we are in with Miss Charlie. And if you have any questions, I don't imagine there's a ton of people that are interested in this, but one of the reasons I'm making these is because I was completely, and still am, enamored, infatuated, obsessed with watching and listening to women talking about teaching their children how to read. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. So I hope that somebody gets something out of it. And by all means, let me know that you stopped by. But this is not, by any stretch of the imagination, I have no delusions of grandeur about these videos. They're really just an opportunity for more people to, share some of the materials and the ideas, and maybe I can talk a bit about the successes that we've had and things that we really enjoyed using. So take care.